Good evening to our viewers. It's a blessing again to be back with you tonight with none other than Apostle Ati Fanel. This program is back, as we say, on popular demand. Apostle, greetings once again. Just greet the viewers as I'm getting ready to delve into this program tonight.
Greetings to you, Apostle. Once again, I appreciate your initiative to put this discussion forum together, and greeting to the viewers, and thank you so much for taking out your time to listen and so that we can enrich the debate.
Also, we had tremendous response on the program the last time, especially the fact that you articulated so well on pivotal issues, and many people say things became clearer to them on the issues you touch on. However, we know that no matter what you put out, people have the right to their view, and there are others that felt pertaining to the church that they felt that you were lashing out on the church on a public platform, a feeling that should have been maybe done on a private platform. But I also know we didn't give you enough time, of which I will give you tonight. So firstly, I want you to deal with the person or the people that feel that you were unfair to the church by challenging the church or exposing the church on a public platform.
Apostle, I'm 45 years old.
Right.
I've been going to church for 45 years and 9 months.
9 months also.
I don't know anything else. I'm a product of the church. I have been reared on the gospel.
Right.
So whatever I have to say concerning the church, when it's a reprimand, it still comes from a good place.
Mm-hmm.
There is something called self-reflection.
Right.
And the more, either as an individual or as an entity or even as a church, the more that self-reflection is owned, the less we have to be criticized from outside. Now, I think it's an unfair criticism towards me that I should have found a way to share my opinion of the missed opportunity of the church.
Right.
Only with church people. Firstly, logistically, it's simply not practical. Secondly, it is a little hypocritical.
Mm-hmm.
Let me explain. We don't think twice to teach unity using the letter of Paul to the Corinthians, where he deals with their disunity.
Right.
Then Paul should have found a way to have done that privately, and after that letter was written, instructed them to burn that letter, so that no other congregation is able to ever again draw from the same principle should the same weakness or developmental area or sin expose itself.
Right.
Similarly to the Galatians, Paul wrote, listen to the harsh language. He asks them something that you teach so eloquently. Who bewitched you? When he addresses the issue of them teaching mixture from one pulpit. One Sunday it's the law, the other Sunday it's grace.
Right.
He uses a word that they have been bewitched. And today when we deal with mixture in certain churches where there are no covenantal clarity, where we swing between the law and grace, we use Galatians liberally and confidently, and not for one moment say, by the way, this should have been shared privately and secretively with the Galatians church. That is my response to that criticism.
Apostle, point well taken. I can see from where you're coming, it's not possible to do it privately in that context. But having said that, you touch on key issues, and we close specifically that interview by you giving 3 points, if I'm corrected, on what you feel the leaders that went to see the president representing the church should have actually put on the table. Now, We also know that there was a delegation again that went to the president, because on Pastor Ed Bossoff's page, he alluded to the fact that they went to see the president to look at the church opening in that setting. Now, I initially asked you the question, should the church open or should the church stay closed? But you were only able, with the time afforded to you, to deal with the delegation that went, and where a missed opportunity was the missed opportunity that played itself off with the delegation seeing the president from the church side. So now I want to pose the question to you. Should the church open? And if the church open, in what context should the church function?
Okay, Apostle, if you can allow me, I'm going to get to your question. But it is important for me to contextualize the answer.
Okay.
We don't celebrate Joseph simply because he happened to find a meeting with the Pharaoh.
Right.
So I find Pastor At's showing off of having met the president,
right,
is neither here nor there.
Right.
Because that delegation that went prior to level 5 and again prior to level 4 missed the mark so far and so comprehensively, and demonstrated such a glaring lack of understanding of the social justice mandate of the church, as we find in the social justice ministry of Jesus as articulated in Luke 4:18 and 19, and then bequeathed to the foundation apostles. Now, the church has no comparison. There is no organism on the face of the earth that can emulate the church.
Right.
Purely because we were not founded by men, we were not funded by men, and we don't answer to men.
Right.
One writer that I follow by the name of Ed Delph said this about the church. He said the church is the only organization that exists for its non-members.
Powerful.
Now think about that for a moment. So, if you walk into a boardroom where we get ready to have a conversation, you can trust any other organization on the face of the earth to speak only in their self-interest.
Right.
Let me make an example. SAA is near collapse for the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
October, November 2019, it is definite that SAA will collapse. It has been mismanaged. It has been not managed profitably. And look what Satao puts on the table in the middle of a collapse. Mm-hmm. The unions say we want an increase.
Yes.
Now, their demand for an increase for a company that's bleeding is not in the interest of the company, it's not in the interest of the shareholder who is the government, it's not in the interest of the client who requires the services of SAA, it's not in the interest of the SMMEs who are suppliers to SAA, but it is in the self-interest of those union members.
Right.
Let's look at big corporates in South Africa. If I must give our viewers the figures that the major JSE listed corporations in this country has invested and refusing over the last 5 to 10 years to make investments into job creating businesses, it is not far-fetched to say large business is on an investment strike in this country. Why? Large business can be trusted to only act in self-interest.
That's good.
The church is not like that. The church can be trusted when we understand the ministry of Jesus properly to not just speak for the church. When the exiles came back to say hi, and the Bible said Nehemiah asked them, the exiles who returned to Jerusalem, Nehemiah never asked them about the church. He asked them about the walls that were still desecrated, burned down, never rebuilt. So in other words, when Nehemiah asked about the walls, he was actually saying to them, what is the economic growth now in Jerusalem?
Right.
What is the infant mortality? How many people are malnourished?
Right.
What is the matric pass rate, especially for maths, science, and accounting?
Right.
What is the literacy rate? What is the crime rate?
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't ask them, do you still have that keyboard player that you had? Yo, that guy can play, that the fire come down. He didn't have a church-obsessed focus the way we do. When we meet each other, we only talk about the church. What's your growth? How many new members? What's your income? Is there a few business guys who have joined? Nehemiah asked about the people on drugs, the people waiting on the housing list, the unemployed. He asked about the broken walls, the condition of the city, and not the condition of the church. Our delegation who met the president prior to lockdown 5 and prior to lockdown 4 had a church-centric focus, not the walls. So that is why when they went back now, they were arguing only for the reopening of the church. To do what? They have wrongly sketched us to government as that we are only interested in our worship, in our corporate prayer, in taking the offering and the tithe, falling in the spirit, telling your neighbor high five about the proclamations that we hear from the pulpit. They should have gone in there and presented the church as the true voice that can speak about anything.
Yes, yes.
So how government understands us now is that when we come in, we're just like a union. We're just like a JSE listed company. We only discuss the issues of self-interest. We don't raise a single issue that is relevant, pertinent, salient, and urgent outside our own walls. So I'm saying, unless they can explain to me why we should open, other than for our own sake, because I have been part of an assignment in last week, convened by a man by the name of Bishop Clyde Ramalain. He had some few other bishops and pastors coming together, and under a foundation called the Thinking Masses of South Africa. Right. We have penned an urgent petition to the Minister of Health and the Minister of Cooperative Governance to build a technical case that will master any requirement set in consideration so that we explain the expanded role of the church and try to make up for the missed opportunity that we did not present ourselves to partner government properly by availing our infrastructure. If I was one of the advisors of the president who met this delegation, I would have asked Pastor Up, in how many towns do you have a CRC building? And how many beds do you think we can fit in there for quarantining following our trace, track, and test strategy? Right.
Apostle, well articulated and point well taken, but it shows you again.
And maybe that's why the government prefer to when they consult, they will rather talk to Pastor Ak than to Pastor Ati.
I think next time they must talk to Pastor Ati. But I think to a large extent, the church has been exposed as an entity whose focus has always been in the building. I'm not saying everyone, but in most cases. Because if you have not been in the community prior to COVID, how are you going to get into the community now during the time of COVID or lockdown? But having said that, what is your view? What if the church opened? At what level should it open, and what should be the functioning responsibility of the church in the light of what you've just said to us?
Apostle, can I put on my preacher's hat and can I go deeper?
Teach that, teach.
Can I go deeper? Amen. I want to make a completely different statement to what our delegation presented to the president. Mm-hmm. The church is open.
Right. Right. I'm with you.
Now, the new covenant church, the church in Jerusalem, that was consummated and commissioned on the day of Pentecost,
right?
Which is next Sunday. That church was started in houses.
Right.
That church grew while in houses.
Right.
That church took care of the poor while in houses.
Right.
That church prayed for prison doors to open while the apostles were incarcerated, while they were in houses.
Teach that, teach.
From those house-based church in Jerusalem, the church of Antioch was planted, which is our model church, because Definitely. That is the church, that is the template church to the church who were formerly Gentiles.
Definitely.
We are no longer Gentiles, we were formerly Gentiles. Mm-hmm. The Antioch church, from a house-based church, planted churches all across Europe, Lystria, Iconium,
right? Teach that.
Galatians, Ephesians, under Paul and Barnabas,
yes,
and later under Paul and Silas,
yes,
all over Europe. They funded missions all over Europe. An entire continent was given the gospel from a house-based church in Antioch.
Right.
That was a fully functional church. They cared for the poor from their homes. They influenced society from their homes. They laid hands in Acts 13 on Paul. Part of his ministry was to take the gospel to the Caesar in Rome. Right. From their homes. They took the gospel to the highest echelons of world power from their homes. If a lockdown can close the church,
right,
then this cannot be the church that Jesus Christ purchased on the cross in a commodity called the blood of the Lamb. The buildings are closed.
Right.
The corporate worship is closed.
Right.
The music ministry is closed.
Yes, sir.
The church is not closed. So
teach that.
So I am saying, Apostle, we are being exposed that the building has altered the DNA of who we are. That if you can close the building, you can paralyze the body. That is why there's an obsession to open the building, but not to open the building to the Department of Health for quarantine purposes. Not to open the building so that we can open the office, so that we can issue the permits to the counselors and the youth workers and the people who can go out and help where there's domestic violence and depression and threats of suicide because of this financial ruin that lockdown has collapsed us into. So when they went to the president, I am suggesting to you, they did exactly what the priest and the Levite did when the man was assaulted, robbed, and left for death bleeding. Mm-hmm. When the priest passed on his way to church, and when the Levite passed on their way to church, both of them were so focused to get to church that they passed church. The bleeding naked man was their service for the morning. But they couldn't think like that. They couldn't think like that. And that is why, Apostle, many people out there link church leadership only with prayer and worship and religious issues. They are shocked when kids of the church, like ourselves, talk about macroeconomics, geopolitics, microeconomics, budgets. Mm-hmm. And because that is our true calling, because our Father owns the earth and everything that's in it, and we don't have a limited mandate. Now, and so my answer to your question, yes, sir.
Apostle, but you mentioned something the other day while you are on this of the home churches. You mentioned something the other day about what is in your DNA. Like if you were operating, you're operating in a comfortable house, you are fairly comfortable, but you can always go back to where you come from. It's in your DNA. Just bring that context out in the context of the church.
Apostle, if the devil pulls a successful hit on me tomorrow, and I lose my business and I lose my income and I lose all my assets,
right,
I can easily move back to a 2-bedroom municipal house.
Right.
Why? I was raised in one.
It's in your DNA.
Where the toilet was outside. And there was no geyser where to boil the water to bath.
Yes, sir.
Where to boil the water to do anything. I can move back to that. I can lose my vehicles. I can go back to a taxi. I was raised in a taxi.
Right.
It's in my makeup. That is why when I lose everything, I don't commit suicide.
Right.
I'm not depressed to the point where I commit suicide because I can function. Now, I don't have the statistics, but I will dare to say 95% of churches were planted in a house. It's in the DNA.
Yes.
Why are we so uneasy
when the building is closed
to function in the exact setup where we were consummated?
We were birthed from it.
We were birthed from houses. It's from houses that we preached the gospel. It's from houses that people heard the gospel and came to Jesus. It's from houses that people fell in the spirit and were slain and spoke in tongues, and where their gifts and talents were revealed. It's from houses that we got the money to set up the buildings. If we must go back to houses for a season, why does it depress us as if this thing is not in our DNA?
Apostle, point taken. Now, let me take it this way. As you've said, church is not closed. The church is open. The buildings are closed.
Yes,
if
sir.
we open the buildings, how should the function be within the context of that buildings? What is your view on that?
Apostle, look, you know my view, and we've shared it with the viewers in our first interview. I am of the view, and I've explained, on the basis of science, on the basis of empiric evidence, and on the basis of the pressing economic realities.
Right.
I believe I have built a cogent case as to why we should jump level 3 and move straight forward on to level 2.
Right.
Now, I am not necessarily obsessed about the reopening of the building.
Right.
My focus is on us getting permits to allow for the full array of our function.
Right.
Because we have an infrastructure footprint that no other organization in South Africa can compare with. Only the church is in every single ward with much more than one building.
Definitely.
Only the church.
Definitely.
Only the church has the counseling capacity and the spiritual care capability in the numbers that we have.
Right.
And because the church ran on the principle of volunteerism, we have mastered the art of mobilizing the workforce.
Right. I'm with you.
So I'm saying, open the church so that we can open the kitchens in the church to cook. Open the church so that we can partner the departments of social development, home affairs, and health with quarantining and taking the homeless off, and helping in the strategy to curb this thing. I'm saying open the church so that we can open the offices from which we can engage more freely to plan and execute and monitor the work that is our mandate to do. Yes, sir. Okay,
so I think you've said enough for now on that. Let me take you to another point that is a very currently the most contentious issue. Now, one needs to look at statistics. You always argue for scientific analysis if they're going to do something. But one of the most contentious issues currently is 1st of June, grade 12s, grade 7. At the same time, they gave out the predictions yesterday of how COVID will spike, because they said it. They never said we'll stop it. They said we retard it until the curve will come. So predictions are by end of May, 30,000 people positive in the country. They say by November, 1 million people, and they predict 40,000 deaths in South Africa. Now, amid that predictions, they are also pushing to open the schools for those 2 grades, moving from one to the other. So what is your view on that? Because also we've seen now Italy has to close another 30 schools with only 2 cases of COVID within that context. So are we going to open up and then jump back and forth, or what is your view on that?
Apostle, as I listened to the minister when she addressed us on Tuesday night, I don't want to be harsh to the minister, but the minister did not present a compelling case.
Okay.
And dare I say, it is impossible to present a compelling case.
Right.
Now, in our first interview, I have pointed out to the fact that I challenge the nature and the quality of the advice that the president and the ministers are receiving from their closest advisors. And as I listened to the minister, I had the same feeling that I had when I listened to the president last week.
Right.
That his advice has not assisted him to have an acute understanding of the lived experience. Let me put it to you this way. You get the sense when the minister speaks, we're living in a different country than where the minister is speaking from.
Okay.
Now, I'll tell you why. Can I take an example, any example? Let me take hospitality.
Right.
Hospitality establishments like guest houses and hotels will only open in level 2. Now, let's take the process to check into a hotel. You pull up in your car, there's a doorman who takes your car for parking.
Right.
So look at that limited and manageable social distancing. Then there's another doorman who takes your luggage at the door. Look at that doable social distancing. Then there's 2 people behind the check-in counter who can properly social distance from each other. Then you go straight to your room where you are alone. Then let's say the hotel or the guest house cancel all the dinners, all the lunches, all the breakfast. So there's no opportunity to gather.
Right.
In any case, all gatherings are suspended up until level 1, so you cannot use the conference facility.
Right.
So why can't the hotel be open in the guest house?
Right.
Now, the Minister of Education comes and say to the woman working in a guest house, please go and drop off your 13-year-old.
Right.
Where in a township class, there can be anything between 44 and 50 learners.
Right.
And in a village class, it can be up to 60.
Right.
So drop her off as a 13-year-old, whom we cannot rely on to maintain social distancing, who have 2 breaks where they play.
Right.
And whose infrastructure set up in the class allows for no social distancing of any sort.
Right.
And then we say to her, after you drop your kid at 7:15, please go back home.
Have your kid out
We
there.
don't yet trust an adult whose social interaction we can calibrate.
Right.
So that it is manageable and the risk is mitigated and contained.
Right.
So drop your kid You may lose your job soon if that guest house and hotel don't have sufficient reserves to carry your salary up until level 1.
Right.
But in the meantime, let's send out your 13-year-old as a child soldier to go and face the epidemic. So we cannot discuss the opening of schools until and unless every single mature South African who has a job is back at work. And secondly, whether that 13-year-old's brother is back in university or TVET college. They must be the last tier of people to be released back into normality. So the whole pitching of the reopening of schools right now cannot be justified by any person arguing reasonably.
So your point is clear. Your point is clear. School opening is a no-go. Apostle Time.
It must follow the opening of the economy.
I hear you.
If you cannot trust adults, you cannot trust children.
Point taken. I don't think you can make it more clearer than that. Our time is running. I want to touch on one more issue, of which we may be crucified for touching on this issue, but it is also a contentious issue. And I think also there may be some of the brothers who feel that they cannot properly use the Lord's table at this time. But I want to pick your brain on it, because you a thinker, so you think outside the box. The whole issue of tobacco and the whole issue of alcohol, and we know that government is being taken to court, etc. What is your view on that?
Apostle, I don't want to be overly critical of the delegation, the religious leaders who went to see the president.
Okay.
They are our brothers, and our scriptures are clear. We are instructed to seek and preserve unity.
Yes.
Joseph made an impression on the Pharaoh because he could solve the Pharaoh's problems. So when, and we don't even have a Pharaoh here because President Ramaphosa is himself a believing Christian, and he is very favorably disposed towards the church. That's why he gave the church a hearing and continues to do so.
Right.
It may be that our Josephs froze in front of the Pharaoh. I'll explain to you why. When you limit your mandate to a mythical religious mandate that Jesus never gave you,
right,
we have an all-encompassing mandate. Joseph had to solve a real problem.
Right.
Right? Our delegation, and probably because of religiosity and because of legalistic orientation, we are so afraid to touch the issue of smoking and drinking. And I'm not afraid to go there.
Right.
I'll tell you why I support the lifting of the ban on both. And like you correctly said, maybe I'll be slaughtered for this.
Right.
When the president announced the lockdown, he never announced a religious campaign.
Right.
He never said, let's win souls. Okay. Right? He said, let's retard the spread of the virus.
Right.
It is then therefore disingenuous to ambush adults and trick them, and now the church come and say, but that is a good time for people to outgrow addictions. No, that's our job. Not a single person in the world was ever saved by regulations.
Right.
People are saved because it is the goodness of God that leads men to repentance.
Teach, yeah.
Right, we must do our job. You cannot trick someone into regulations. Now, what the regulations have done and what the church is afraid to speak about, I will rather say, let's lift the ban on smoking. Let's lift the ban on selling of tobacco products. Let's lift the ban on selling of alcoholic products, because we have now, through the banning, assisted the process to create well-established underground networks for selling tobacco products and for selling alcoholic products who do not contribute to the tax base.
Right.
And as the church, you will know, we stand with the poor.
Mm-hmm.
So when the commissioner of SARS cannot accomplish his tax targets, he cannot build the schools and build the houses and build the pipelines for potable water and for electrification to the people who need it most.
Right.
That's the first problem. The second problem is the longer we delay with the ban, by the time the ban is lifted, those underground networks have been so well established.
Mm-hmm.
It will take years with our police service to uncover them and dismantle them and have prosecutable cases in the criminal justice system.
Right.
But my third point is this: how did the ban stop the use?
No, it can't stop the use.
It can't stop the use.
It can't stop the
It
use.
has only
You cannot
forced
stop.
the poor
You
to
cannot.
pay 6 times the poor, because the poor didn't have enough money on 26 March to stockpile.
Right.
So who do you punish? You don't punish any smoker, because all smokers have continued. The rich and the upper class, the upper middle class have continued through stockpiling. The poor has continued through tapping into the underground markets where they can get a single cigarette or a single beer in a clandestine manner, and they must pay through the roof.
15 rand for a single cigarette. And the reality is, you cannot stop sin by legislating it.
You
and
cannot.
The law increases the trespass. So the more laws you put, the more you bring illegal practices to the fore, because we who preach grace understand that. So yes, I hear your point, and I'm sure there will be a lot of debate on this. Apostle, our time is running out. Any closing remarks you want to say to the nation, to those listening? Because we are not talking here without hope. We know in who our hope is. We know who our foundation is. We know in whom we believe. We know that in God's sovereignty, God has not lost any control of anything. And we know that God will navigate us through this, and we will come out victorious. But any closing words you want to give to those that are watching and listening?
Apostle, Romans says that creation is waiting with bated expectation for the sons and daughters to be revealed.
Right.
The sons and daughters don't need the building.
Yes.
The sons and daughters can function under the leadership of the Spirit.
Amen.
The sons and daughters will have a true understanding of our broad mandate that is not confined to a building. Creation is facing the greatest ever crisis in modern history. It is awaiting the sons and daughters
to be manifest,
to now step up and articulate clearly kingdom positions in the economy, in education, in health. So we must not have this paralysis that was induced by the closure of the buildings. And tonight I want to implore our people to shake off that paralyzing intoxication that is our obsession with the closed buildings, and trust God to reveal to us opportunities for ministry and connect us with the ancient church in the book of Acts.
Amen.
Where ministry was not just permissible, but it exploded.
Powerful.
From the houses.
Powerful.
And tonight my encouragement.
Apostle, what a powerful encouragement, because the church has been talking inside the building for years about the 7 mountain principles. And this is our time to be able to move into those spheres and make a kingdom difference. In fact, we were doing a program today, my wife and I, on homeschooling, because you know my wife has been involved in 24 years of homeschooling our children, which are also the things that people need to take cognizance of, because that's what COVID has pushed us into. But Apostle, thank you again for giving us this time. I believe our viewers again will be greatly blessed. And we look at the response, and if there are more questions, we'll bring you back so that you can clarify certain issues. Because I know the last issue was a very contentious and fiery issue. But the Lord bless you and your family, Apostle. Just greet the viewers, and we will see each other next time.
Lord, the Lord bless you and the beautiful family of the faith there at New Direction Grace Church in Cape Town. I love you, and I appreciate the manner in which you have provoked my thought processes, my ministry. This is my mandate, as you know.
Definitely.
I'm passionate about socio-economic justice and the role of how Jesus bequeathed that mandate to the church. So, and I appreciate your heart.
And I also want to put this out for those listening. Post COVID, if you need a good speaker that can speak well on economics, politics, church, business, I think you are rising as our Jesse Jackson. So I'm just gonna say, watch this space for now. But Apostle, I appreciate your gift. I appreciate your gift. And from the day I met you, I always told you, you are an apostle in the marketplace. So we can hear the wisdom. Blessings to you, and we will talk again. God bless you. Okay.
Amen.